Welcome in, friends and future friends, to the first Sports of the World podcast of 2026. I'm LaDarius, and you all know my co-host, the amazing Hailee Murphy. And how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Lots to cover. Short
I
time.
know it's only 8 days into the year and there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably talk about it on next week's show, but we'll talk about the head coaching firings next week because maybe I think there'll still be vacancies after that, so we can hold off. We can push that in the back pile. But let's jump into some football, a little bit of basketball in the end. But let's talk about it's wild card weekend. Uh, we got 6 games. We got a 2-3-1 format. So starting on Saturday, we have the Rams traveling down to Carolina to face the Panthers, and then we have the Packers facing the Bears, one of the NFL's longest rivalry. So let's just break it down and look at it here now. For the Rams, like I say, some games we don't really have to go into detail on because it's. But so when we look at the Rams and the Panthers, do you feel that the Panthers can keep this game competitive, or it's just going to be like the Rams is going to kind of come in and take care of business?
So I think this one is an interesting matchup and personally my favorite one of the weekend. You've got the dominance and probable MVP Matthew Stafford, coming off an incredible season. And then you have the Panthers, whose defense has been pretty consistent, especially in this last stretch of the season. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a good matchup. I think, excuse me, I live by a hospital, if you can't tell. I think that this matchup is going to be kind of a battle of whose strongest asset is the strongest, right? So can that offense of the Rams outplay the defense of sorry, I just blanked of the Panthers.
It's listen, it's the NFC South. My team's in that division. I have a team in that division, and sometimes I forget teams in that division. And we played them twice here. I'm like, what's that team? And
Listen, this week's been the longest week of my life. I'm just lucky to be here.
it's yeah, like I said, like go through multiple stuff. It's kind of like organized, like what like I said, it's there, and then you throw in the fact that it's like I said, the NFC South is a huge factor. Worst division in football. I can say it. You guys don't have to. It's the same way I feel about certain conferences in basketball and in football. I that's a whole nother show. But to your point, I think what makes this matchup interesting is Carolina's defense, because I think the last time these two, like, Carolina did a decent job. Carolina's defense is pretty solid. The question is, can Dave Canales and Bryce Young? Because I think the key might be Bryce Young having to throw the football. I think we got Rico Dowdle back there, and Bryce Young's a runner. I think that's going to be the matchup with Chris Shula and this Rams defense to do versus Dave Canales' offense. Like this game, I think the last spread I saw, it was like a +10, and I honestly feel it could be kind of like that sort of game. I think if like Carolina hangs around, especially after half, like whatever happens at halftime will let me know kind of what the second half. That's how I kind of feel about this game.
Mm-hmm.
Now when we look at the second matchup on Saturday, it's the longest rivalry in the NFL, classic NFC North rivalry. We have Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers facing Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. And what I'll say is this, and I'll get your thoughts. This really feels like a toss-up game, in that both quarterbacks, different expectations. And I believe that Jordan Love is one of the two quarterbacks in the playoff this year who have pressure. I'll talk about the other one when we get to the game. But Jordan Love has pressure because when we think about the history of the Packers, that guy named Aaron Rodgers and that Favre guy, I know their name. I have reasons why I mispronounce. It's deliberate. They brought a Super Bowl to Green Bay by like 26, 27. Jordan Love is there. I feel that there's a pressure on this Packers team to do more. And I'm not going around saying fire Matt LaFleur. I don't think we're in that territory. But if they kind of fall, if they lose to Chicago, there's going to be questions in Green Bay. And listen, losing Micah Parsons, you know, this defense looks 180 of what they are. So I'm good to get your thoughts on this Packers Bear games and your thoughts on how you see it going.
You know, biases aside, these are my two biggest rivals in football as a Lions fan. But they're also two really good teams. I believe they've split their series. So I think it's going to be a pretty even matchup. And like you said, there's a lot of aspects and a lot of people who have things to prove in this game, and it's going to be really telling. I do think that the Bears will pull away with this one. But you know what? I'm excited. I don't know. This playoff season, this postseason, I'm really enjoying. We don't have those heavy hitters that we usually do. It's quite literally a bracket we haven't seen in such a long time, right? Being without the Chiefs and, all of these insane storylines that have happened throughout the season. So having a first weekend like this, with the Rams and the Panthers and the Bears and the Packers, I think that it's just a great way to finish off a season and start the postseason. So I think this week is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm kind of low key leaning Bears on this. My mind might change. My betting mind might change. I just look at Green Bay and go, if there was ever a game where Jordan Love needed to have like a great game, this would like the offense receivers are healthy. I would like to see more Josh Jacobs, and that to me is a huge concern. Whether you're betting on games or whether you're a Packers fan, you're like, we need to see something. Like we know Josh Jacobs is great, and we're just going to be how many times he's going to be used in this game because I kind of think that could be a factor. The Packers may have to use their run game to elevate their passing game. So shifting from that rival, we go to Sunday. We have a triple header, and we go to Jacksonville. We have Josh Allen and the Bills facing Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. And the second quarterback I thought who has pressure is Josh Allen. In a postseason with no Lamar Jackson, no Patrick Mahomes, you could throw in Joe. This feels like he's easily the best and most experienced quarterback in these playoffs. Once again, I just feel the pressure's on Buffalo. And I don't think they're just going to walk into Everbank Stadium and beat a Jaguar team. We talk about Trevor Lawrence a lot. We don't talk about that defense. And Buffalo's defense, to be honest, they beat the Jets, but the Jets are the Jets, respectfully. And so I feel like I feel like I'm leaning Buffalo because I just feel that I don't know how with Josh out. Like I said, I feel that Sean McDermott, there was a coach coaching for his job. It's Sean McDermott because if you can't get at least to the AFC Championship game, and like I said, the guys that I mentioned, no Patrick Mahomes and no Lamar Jackson. People want to throw in Joe Burrow, that's fine. When you're the only elite quarterback left, I feel there's pressure. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on the game and your assessments of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Josh Allen, again, sticking with that whole a lot to prove this season and this postseason, I think he has a lot to prove. I think it's interesting. Personally, I think that the Bills are kind of that. I don't want to call them a sleeper, but I think that they are one of those that more powerhouse of the lower seeds this season. I think that if they can get past the Jags, I think we can see them make a deep run. Again, the Jags can run the ball. So if their offense plays it like they have been, I think, it's going to be a difficult matchup for Josh Allen and the Bills. But again, I think that that expertise and that vet mentality, and this whole idea of I've been here before. I think that's what's going to help Josh Allen kind of take out the Jags. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think they're still going to pull away with that.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I just feel like for Buffalo, the more experienced team, I think Jacksonville can keep it competitive. It's one of those games where can Trevor Lawrence play like he's played essentially lights out for the last month and a half of this season? If he can do that, Travis Etienne, you know, how we're going to see how the run game goes. We're going to see how listen, if you had Jacoby Myers being a number one guy, nobody saw it coming, but that trade paying dividends. We're seeing Brian Thomas Jr. Buffalo has to account for those guys. To me, Buffalo's secondary versus that Jaguars receiving core, to me, is a very key matchup to kind of look out for. Now, now we're going to the city of brotherly love. We got the 49ers and the Eagles. I'll reserve my thoughts for the back end. I'm curious to get your thoughts, Hailee, on the game, predictions, or keys that you're looking for.
Well, I think that if I were in the playoffs, the one team I don't want to see is the 49ers. I think that the score is going to be tight in this game. Philly's at home, which I think is an interesting aspect of this. Philly's physical. They've spent pretty much the entire season hearing that they are not the same team. And so I need, again, something that they have to prove, right? But I am afraid of the 49ers. I think that if their offense isn't at 100%, I'm not talking 110, I just need them at 100. I don't think that they're going to win this game. But again, their margin for error is a little shorter, but they've got to focus on Philly's pass rush and making sure that they can kind of get those stops when necessary. And I kind of equate this to, the Jags game and the Jags and Bills games. If the 49ers make it past Philly, I think we can see them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'll be quick. When I look at this matchup, and to your point, I think Philly's pass rush in that front seven, Brock Purdy, how healthy is he? That offensive line, I think there's no Trent Williams, one of the best offensive linemen in football. If you're Kyle Shanahan, how do you go about that? But I look at this running back matchup, Chris McCaffrey versus Saquon Barkley. This could be one of those type of games where if one of these guys, because they're the same, but they're different. I think they're very versatile, getting the ball at the backfield. I think they can run in between. They can run north and south, east and west if necessary. And people I look at Jalen Hurts and I go, for some reason people are still talking about Jalen Hurts, and I'm like, for a guy who has a Super Bowl ring and has been to at least 2 Super Bowl, I don't know. He's probably the least guy in the play who has something to prove to me. He showed he can take a foot. He whatever his role is, he's doing his job. But when I look at Jalen Hurts and I look at Brock Purdy, a healthy Brock Purdy can be dangerous. But against the Philly secondary, very susceptible. Because you mentioned, I agree with you on that Philly front seven. But that back end, that's going to be, we might see, it's George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, Christian McCaffrey once again involved in the passing game. I kind of feel, listen, if San Francisco is very healthy, I tell Philly, yes, are the 49ers banged up? Sure. I'm not going to count out Kyle. I'm not going to count out this team because when healthy, they're one of the talented rosters in football. And the job Robert Saleh has done with this defense, given the injuries, losing key guys, if they hang around, we're talking fourth quarter, if they're hanging around, I think special teams could be key, as we saw in the game. We'll go ask the Ravens. And I think I kind of give the edge to San Francisco there. So that's a kind of a game where if San Francisco hangs around, Philly, it's going to be a great fourth quarter if that's the case. And the final game on the Sunday slate is well, I guess I still consider him a young quarterback. We got Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers facing Drake May and the New England Patriots. And like you mentioned earlier, like Matthew Stafford could be the MVP, but I think Drake May could have a case as well because I'd argue you could go another route, but it's a quarterback driven award. So, but I look at this matchup and I think it's just two things. I look at, can this Chargers offensive line keep Justin Herbert upright? Mike Vrabel and this defense, they're going to come at you. And and I look at for New England, can Drake May dissect a very good secondary for the Chargers? Are we going to see Stevens? Are we going to see Travion Henderson? The whole situation, like with the whole thing with Stephon Diggs, there's a lot hovering around this Patriots team. I think they're focused because Mike Vrabel, I think, is getting these guys focused already. You can't sleep on the Chargers. But I'm here to get your thoughts on it and who you think is going to win, or just some keys to the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a historical season for the Patriots, and it's kind of nice to see them being competitive again and in contention. They were that dynasty for so long, and then it feels like the Chiefs kind of came in and swooped in, but now we're seeing a good New England football team, and I think that's really exciting. But yeah, I think that this game, the Patriots are supposed to win this game, but I think the Chargers are supposed to steal this game. I think that if the Patriots can stay disciplined and avoid any chaos, I think that they will be able to pull away pretty early with this game. But again, the moment something I think rattles them, they kind of fluster, and I think that could be their downfall. So if they like you said, stay focused the entire game, I don't see a way that the Chargers can run away with this game. But I think it's exciting though. I think there's going to be a lot of early aggression, so I think it's going to be a really dominant first half, and then the second half, I think that's going to tell us a lot about how the rest of the playoff picture will be for the team leading at the start of the second half.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think when you look at like this field is going to be physical. I think the Patriots offense, listen, they could run the ball. If they can take pressure off of Drake May, play at once again. I talk about play action. If that Drake May has done a very good job with play action and he can move as well, I hope Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for the Chargers, how do you contain Drake May? Because I always say you can't stop players, you can contain them. Like when you're a great player, whether, like I said, no matter the sport, I said you can always, if you can contain Drake May, somehow make him beat you in terms of make him throw the ball a little bit, maybe get to that 30-35 passing attempts situation, Chargers may have a shot. And then, like I say, for Justin Herbert, you got to keep him upright. Because when he's upright and he can throw, he's got Ladd McConkey, he got a Rondé Gadsden. He has talent there. It's just that offensive line, you got to stay upright. That could be for any quarterback, but particularly for Justin Herbert. And the final game on Wild Card Weekend or weekday. I don't always say Wild Card Weekend is the game on Monday, but I'm not Goodell. I'm not gonna mess with the trademark money. So we head to Pittsburgh. We got the Texans. We got the Steelers. Curious to get your thoughts, keys to the game, and how do you kind of see it going?
So I think that the Steelers come away from this game. I think they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. Again, going along with that theme of the playoffs this year, a lot to prove, I think more than ever. But I think that this is going to be our best shot at an old school football game. I think that it's going to be to the core, to the basics, no flashiness, no craziness. I think the goal is get down the field, score as quick as possible for both of these teams. DK is coming back. We all know my favorite wide receiver. That suspension was nuts. nuts as a Lions fan, but yeah, I think DK is going to pop off. You've given him some ammunition. Yeah, but I think that this one's going to be a close one, but I think that the Steelers are going to pull away for sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned DK Metcalf. I think the matchup for me is CJ Stroud, Nico Collins versus Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf. Who can get their ball to their number one guy? I think that's a huge key, and they can run the ball well. Once again, the X factor to me for Pittsburgh, like Kenneth Gainwell, we don't talk about him enough. Like he's actually been their top receiver. It feels like for that team, and it's like on a team that didn't have with a team with DK Metcalf. That's very weird to say, but when you get DK Metcalf, it's the playoff time. I think you're going to feed him. I think especially if they get in the red zone, that's DK Metcalf territory because it could be, I don't know. I'm assuming Derek Stingley's going to cover. That could be something like I think Aaron's going to try to feed DK. Just in the same way I think CJ's going to try to feed Nico Collins. This is the type of game where we could see some explosiveness, but I would not be shocked if this was like a low, not like a 3-0 type of game, but like a very low scoring game compared to the other games we played. It would not surprise me whatsoever. And as much as people want Aaron Rodgers out of the play, I don't know. If that Texas defense can rise to the occasion, I think people may get their wish and get Pittsburgh out. But if Pittsburgh figures it out, puts it together, it looks like Pittsburgh and it's at home. And home field advantage works well for some. Pittsburgh is one of those situations. Hopefully they can get, hopefully that kind of will help them out. Now, shifting from the NFL, we got 2 college football playoff games, and we got one tonight. It's the Fiesta Bowl. It's Miami versus Ole Miss. And, the SEC, we're both fans of SEC teams. See, the SEC, me says, man, I really want Ole Miss to win. But I really want them to win because they stood up to Lane Kiffin. And that, to me, it's like to have the nerve, the gall, to want to coach this team when you're buddy. Like, do you think that? But can I? Like, no, he's still getting paid, so I don't. But the nerve of people say, no, he wants to coach his team. No. Like Pete Golding's doing a pretty good job, but that's just my opinion. I can listen. That's a no. The outcome of this game will determine my rant for next week. But here to get your thoughts on the game. What do you like, Miami, Ole Miss, and any other thoughts you have on the game?
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is gonna take this game. I think it's Ole Miss's dominant offense against Miami's dominant defense, right? Again, which one's going to be better? Who's going to outplay the other? But I think it's going to be, a battle of a good defense and good offense. And I think that if Miami can keep plays in front of them, I think then, they can keep this competitive. But, I think that if Ole Miss can score early on, they're going to have a momentum throughout the game that I don't think that Miami can shut down.
Yeah, I think when I look at Ole Miss, we don't talk about Tristan Chambliss a lot for Ole Miss, but he's been fantastic for Ole Miss. Carson Beck, the question is always this. He's one of those quarterbacks I put in the category of which quarterback are we going to get today? Are we going to get the Carson Beck who's shown up in this college football playoff, beating Texas A&M and then beating helping beat number one, beating Ohio State? Or are we going to get the guy that faces an Ole Miss defense that's not terrible? And this could be a sneaky high-scoring game, but I really feel that defensively, I think Ole Miss is the underdog. And I'm like, I kind of, a part of me says Ole Miss, there's a reason why they're the higher seed for a reason. Like, don't let that Ohio State game fool you. Like, just something about Ole Miss. I'm like, for them to be the dog in this game, and I get it. Miami has Sunday players on that front seven, but I think they can keep. My gut is leaning Ole Miss. It's the SEC in me, but I'll definitely go Ole Miss. And then tomorrow we go to the Peach Bowl, my favorite because it has the name of a food in it. So peaches are very good fruits. Like the Justin Bieber song about peaches. That's a different conversation. Because I'm like, oh, the other lyric, I'm like, oh, whatever. We're not here to talk about music. We're serious. We're talking about football, guys. Or football and other stuff. But we have Oregon facing Indiana, and all I'm going to say is that if you look at Indiana's roster, outside of Fernando Mendoza, a lot of people don't know who these guys are. And mind you, I don't think there's a 5-star guy anywhere on that roster. Kurt Signetti just knows how to coach, and that cannot be stressed enough. Oregon, Dan Lanning and that defense, this could be, if there was a team that could shut down Indiana, I think it's Oregon, possibly. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on the game and how you see it.
Yeah, this is a classic, Big Ten matchup. I typically say West Coast teams don't belong in the Big Ten. However, when it comes to championship games and playoff situations, if a West Coast team happens to, make it far, then, we can recognize them. But I think that Indiana, I actually would love Indiana to win the championship. That being said, obviously, I think they're going to beat Oregon. I think that what the difference is, I think with Oregon, you really have, an elite balance on kind of both sides and this confidence of such a good season. And then with Oregon, then you've got, just a team that can make explosive plays. And then you've got their kind of revenge game against Indiana after losing to them this season. So I think it's going to be really exciting, especially for Big Ten football enjoyers. I think it's going to be one of your more classic Big Ten matchups. But I do think Indiana is going to just kind of walk in there with an attitude and a momentum that I don't think is going to be stopped by Oregon. I don't think Oregon's going to match it, but I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting game because, to your point, you made a very good point about Oregon. It feels like, are they going to lean on having a great season and kind of – because I think low-key that's what Alabama did. I think Alabama underestimated Indiana. You're like, oh, it's just Fernando Mendoza and some dudes. And those dudes hung up 38 points. And Kurt Signetti kept the same face the whole game. And I'm like, you know what? It's like a basketball school? I don't know. Listen, every time I think Indiana, I think basketball. I'm like, I gotta be thinking football.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not mad with it because, listen, maybe people don't want to watch the Indiana basketball product. I don't know. I don't live in Bloomington. So, listen, so if you're from Bloomington, Indiana, I won't be reading. If you send me a letter or you send me, I won't read it. Because I didn't offend the program. I'm just saying, listen, everybody has lows and peaks and valleys. That's all I'm saying. Hey, listen, UCLA, classic example. I think basketball. I don't expect the football team to be great. But if they are, that's good for you guys. Like when I think of Michigan State, I think, I don't know. I think a little bit of both. But you got Tom Izzo, so I'm going to naturally go Izzo. But listen, there's just classic examples of where, one program that you didn't like UConn before we finished with Unrivaled. If you're UConn, where's Dan Hurley? Is this my mic? You went to overtime with Providence. That's all I'm going to say. With Providence. I don't care about the result of the game. You went to overtime with Providence. So when you get to that podium, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. Because come March, blah, blah. That's all I'm going to say.
That man's a fool. That man is a fool. All he does is yell. All he does is yell.
He does. That's all he does. It pops on my TV. He's like, possible upset. I'm like, oh, man. Like, can Providence pull the upset? I'm like, listen, give me a jersey from Providence. I'll go out there and
it was a good game. I watched the whole thing. I'm a perpetual Dan Hurley hater. And he was doing his antics the whole time. He actually got a tech right after the first half. Yeah. Loser.
Hey, how did that Providence game go? Oh, we play competitive. Yeah, against Providence.
Against Providence.
Okay.
Against Providence.
Oh, okay. Okay, but hey, I understand conference play is tough, but it's still Providence. It's like, listen, my UConn women's basketball team, go look at those scores. We're beating St. John's. I don't think they got like. Listen, that's all I'm going to say. Maybe need to go to one of their games, learn how to coach, learn from Gino. That's what you need. You see those 12 championship Raptors at Gamble Pavilion. Maybe you can learn something, Dan. Maybe for one of the greatest, not just women's coaches, but like maybe you can learn something. And LA had the Lakers had the nerve to offer this man a contract.
I remember last season, after they blew it in March Madness. I remember so many Lakers fans on social media saying, "Thank God he didn't say yes to our offer."
Yeah. It's like they're like, man, we dodged one. Listen, you don't listen to me and Hailee, especially Hailee. She's been at this longer than I have. Okay, she got me on board. I'm in the passenger seat. She's driving the thing. I'm just here to take the wheel if needed. I'm just eating snacks. I'm enjoying myself. But before we get out of here, folks, like, listen, and subscribe to this episode, every episode of Sports in the World podcast. Find me at LaDarius_Brown on Twitter, TikTok, _Brown on Instagram, Facebook page. Check that out as well. And before we get out of here, in the time we have, we got to talk about unrivaled basketball. And because you and I talked about it, and like for those, I write for Beyond Women's Sports, writer editor at Beyond Women's Sports. And so the quick story is that my editor, if you're watching, hi Penny, I asked her, could I write specifically about one team? And I said, can I write about the Breeze? Because I looked at the roster. When I saw Paige Beckers, I'm like, okay, I'll cover it. I'm good. I did, and then I looked further, and I saw Cameron Brink, and I saw, then I saw Eric Donald, and then I'm just looking down the road, I'm like, okay.
Kate Martin, Rakia Jackson, my girls.
I'm like, okay, you get like this one of the youngest, like, and they got a great Dominique Mamalonga.
Yep.
Seattle Storm, my team too. So like, yeah. So it's like, listen, double. I'm like, I'm a Storm fan. I expect it. I'm like, listen, who getting anyway? But so people are like, oh, what's going on? We listen, half the time I don't know. We just talk about good teams and but I'm curious to get your thoughts. It's early, it's just week, a couple of games. They play tomorrow. There's games over the weekend. Just your thoughts on a rival, and listen, just like you and I think we're simpatico on the Breeze. So I really like they're they're young, but like they have low key experience. Because I'm like the sleeper on this team, and I tell like it's Kate Martin. Like nobody's talking like she can score, but it's like you look at the roster, you're like she doesn't really have to. Because when you got Paige and you got Rakia, and like with Cam Brink, like she's gonna start. It's like there's a great balance of youth, and there's like and Paige is Paige, and I don't know. I'll let you wrap up with Unrivaled because I can go all night. So
I am such a huge proponent of this league. I think it is so much fun. I love that it was founded by two WNBA players. You can tell in the difference between, the excitement and the professionalism and the quality of Unrivaled versus the WNBA. It's extremely more player friendly, which in turn makes it more fan friendly. I love it. I love a 3-on-3 style. I love how aggressive it is. It's elite talent. They've structured this league in a way where it gives these players the best opportunity to just play their best game, with their centralized locations. You've got the living quarters and the brand new training facilities that they did this season, and all of the stuff that they even just upgraded from last season. It's just so exciting, and I love it so much. I love women's basketball so much, but I also love that it's bringing more visibility to women's basketball. People only think of the WNBA. When you think of NBA and you think of soccer leagues, you know that leagues, you know that these extend, outside of, just the American professional leagues. Well, WNBA, people don't really recognize that outside of maybe, knowing that Brittany Griner was overseas playing, and that's when all of that stuff happened with her, or to her, I should say, happened to her. But I think that Unrivaled being central in the US and having such an incredibly talented roster of players on all 8 teams, it's so exciting. And yes, as you mentioned, Kate Martin is my sleeper athlete. I think she is phenomenal. I was so excited when she was drafted. I'm personally pushing for Kate Martin to be drafted on the Detroit Shock in 2027, 2028. But we'll see how that pans out in a few years. But yeah, I think that the entire concept of Unrivaled is just so awesome. And so I'm really hoping that more people get into it and can enjoy it the way that you and I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like I said, I write about that. I guess it's stuff to promote my stuff. I guess use wrestling. I guess that my promo real quick before we get out of here. And then we got Athletes Unlimited basketball, which is it's in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I've been covering it for I think I didn't cover it the first, but I've covered it every year, maybe except for the first year. And now they have different identities now with 4 different, like with the glow and the women's basketball is beyond the WNBA, and that's the point I'm glad you mentioned as well. So folks, before we get out of here, Hailee, let the amazing people know where they can find you and your amazing stuff.
You can find me on all social media platforms at TheHaileyMurphy.
So there you go, folks. No excuses because she spelled it. Now, if you can't spell, then listen. Spelling can be difficult. Listen, I watched the spelling bee. Like those kids, I'm like, if those words on that screen, I'd be like, what'd you say, sarcophagus? Like, sorry. Can I take a mulligan on that one? Can I get a I can figure out Yahtzee. I can figure that out. But anyway, friends and future friends, thanks for watching this episode of Sports and the World podcast. For my amazing co-host, Hailee, I'm LaDarius. We'll see you again next week. Friends and future friends, be real, be blessed, and be safe. I think I got